Now, I will tell you that we did tweak the name of our Equity and Inclusion Committee, just because we just didn't want to make a target of it. And we felt for the people that were a part of that membership. And so we renamed it, but that's the work we do is still.
Do you have an equity department or anything like that?
So honestly, we had, what we decided to do is not call attention to it. Because when you call attention to it, then questions are asked. And I really believe that you can do more good under the radar.
What else do you have to relabel or non-label like that?
I think really CRT, social emotional learning, are the two biggies that we just have to avoid the words, the labels.
We can still do the content, just no label.
Yep.
I get people that say, I don't like that you read a book to my child and the child was transgender in the book and, I should have been asked permission for that. And I'm like, no, we don't call and ask permission if we can read a nice piece of literature that shows inclusive practices to families. We have all gender bathrooms, for kids, even the elementary level. Like I said, sometimes I get parents that aren't thrilled with some of the decisions we make, but that's what we believe in, or we are really about equity for all kids.
Man, those blue areas, that had to be, that must have been New York City, I bet, or maybe San Francisco, I bet it was. Let's ask Casey about it. Joining me now, Casey Hendrickson, radio host on the great 95.3 MNC. Casey, which part of California was that?
Yeah, tell me about it. Red State, Indiana, right? This is the thing. This is everywhere. We need people to understand that, Jesse. This is everywhere in the country. And yes, they start off in those blue urban areas, but then they start to expand out into the suburbs, and then they find the elite school districts, and then they weasel their way into the elite school districts in there. Two of those school districts that were in that video are in my listening audience. And we have been talking about this for years. And the weird thing about this is that there's actually, really one or two school districts in the area that these all seem to permeate from. It's almost like the Belichick coaching branch in the NFL. Belichick had all of these coaches. Now they're all head coaches around the league. It's pretty much the same thing. So Penn Harris Madison starts teaching critical race theory. They, of course, deny it. We have the lesson plans that are directly from the CRT handbook. They then deny it. Teachers then admit, yeah, we're totally teaching critical race theory in the classroom. Here's my senior thesis at IUSB on how to do that without the parents knowing about it. IUSB deletes that thesis so nobody can read it anymore. And then they go to these other school districts and they take over those school districts. They become principals, they become superintendents, assistant superintendents. And this is how this all spreads. It's funny because that came out and we were obviously pushing it out there in the audience because there's two of those districts that are in our listening audience. And you still get people after watching the video going, nah, they issued a statement saying they don't teach critical race theory. So it's totally not happening. It's a myth. It's a conspiracy theory. And I'm like, it's right there. The school district that admits to you that they manufacture it, they manipulate the data, and they lie to you about it. They just lied to you again. You fell for it again.
Casey, what is being done? What can we do? Is something being done? I'd like Indiana to stay nice and red.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. The Indiana Republican Party isn't red, okay? Our party here in St. Joseph County and in Elkhart County, very red. But the Indiana Republican Party is very purple. And here's the thing. I blame the Republican governors, including former Vice President Mike Pence, for most of this. If you go back multiple gubernatorial administrations, who did they put in as the chief executive for Indiana schools? Some teachers union, favored leftist person who pushed out these indoctrinating policies. That's what's happened. The Republican Party in Indiana needs to learn that they're not going to be able to go along and get along with crazy people in the teachers union because it's not going to buy you any favors and it's hurting our kids. So they're being slipped into the classroom via curriculum. It's obviously not branded as CRT. That's their big plausible deniability, right? It's not CRT. We don't teach CRT. That's a college course. What they do is they take the CRT handbooks and they pluck lessons from those handbooks out and they find their way into the classroom in elementary school, middle school, high school. And it's just a lesson from CRT, right? They start very, very young. Social emotional learning is another one where they take tenets of CRT and they put it in social and emotional learning. DEI, which is, faculty training, it's in there. I got a call 2 years ago, and this was in the middle of the summer, right before the school season started. And I had an executive, I won't say who they were or their position because we don't want reprisals here. They called me up and they said, we were at orientation for this entire school district, and the orientation for the whole school district is critical race theory and how to implement it in the classroom. But of course, you got to be hush-hush about it. There was almost a mass exodus of principals in that school district upping and quitting at that orientation. They called me up and they said, we huddled together and we said, we can't leave, because if we leave, they'll replace us with people who believe in this. They'll put them in those schools. They'll put those people in those classrooms, and then your kids have no buffer. I do want parents to know this too, Jesse, that there are a lot of faculty members at these schools who are on your side. They're fighting against this in every way that they possibly can without losing their jobs, and they have to keep this kind of on the quiet, but they are doing it. You have more friends than you realize.
What are parents supposed to do, Casey? I got kids, man. I got sons, and I would like them to not come home one day with a bunch of rings in their face and tell me they're women. What are parents supposed to do?
Yeah, this is the issue, right? And I think that this is where COVID was a blessing, because people like you and me who are in this business, who've been talking about problems in schools for a long time. Yeah, sometimes you had some examples where it really highlighted that. Other times we were looked upon as being crazy, insane people. But then what happened during COVID is parents saw what they were being taught. They had no excuse anymore to not know what was happening in the classroom. And as more of those parents were starting to realize what the reading material was, what the lesson plans were, how terrible the modern iteration of math is, they decided that no, enough is enough. And so they started running for school board. So that's honestly, that's what has to happen. And parents they got to put their kids ahead of themselves. They got to put their kids ahead of, just going along to get along in the community. And I get it. People love the teachers that their kids have grown up with. And some of those teachers are teachers that maybe you had as a parent when you went through that school district. But there comes a point in time where you have to say, is that more important than making sure that my kid is getting a proper education and not being indoctrinated and turning the classroom into a politicized, institution, really? Any classroom that has a BLM flag or a rainbow flag in it or anything like that, that teacher is automatically unqualified to be around kids as far as I'm concerned.
All right, man. All right, finally, Casey, I do have to ask you, as much as I love Indiana, I do really, truly despise one of your exports, and he is known as the Rear Admiral on this show. Here's Pete Buttigieg.
Of both profound challenge and historic opportunity for U.S. transportation. On one hand, our transportation systems are still grappling with the consequences of the pandemic, climate change, and decades of disinvestment.
Casey, why'd you guys have to give us that idiot?
Hey, we tried warning you, man. We did all we could. Politico came to town. They wouldn't take our calls. We did everything we could to warn you. And the moment we found out, I've said this with Slater as well. The moment that we found out that he was going to be the transportation secretary, everybody in my studio building was laughing for probably 10, 15 minutes straight, because everything this guy touched in transportation was an absolute mess. It was a disaster. He claims smart streets are a success. Smart streets are a miserable failure. So there's nothing about this guy's transportation resume that is stellar or even acceptable. But, when you're transportation secretary, what is transportation secretary, Jesse? It's considered to be one of the easiest, cakiest executive jobs in Washington, D.C. Transportation's on autopilot in this country. They put him in the safest place that he could possibly be to get some bona fides, up his national exposure. And what happened? Well, disaster after disaster after disaster. And just like when things went wrong in South Bend, Pete Buttigieg disappears every time things get tough. It's interesting. We've had a couple of train wrecks since East Palestine, haven't we? We've had a couple of other disasters, haven't we? Why can I find his husband, Chasten, posting all over social media about Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch? I can't find anything about Pete Buttigieg other than the occasional interview saying that roads are racist, which is a debunked nonsensical conspiracy theory anyway. This guy always vanishes when things get difficult and things get tough. And that's exactly who you can expect if he runs for president again, or more likely as governor of Michigan.
Oh, gosh, don't even say that. Casey, I appreciate you, brother. Come back soon.
Yeah, he moved to Michigan.
No.
Whitmer wants the White House. I'm telling you right now, that's my next prediction on that. Hey, Jesse, real quick before I go, can I say this? Welcome to the MNC Nation family. We picked up your show. We're an affiliate. We're a proud affiliate. The show's amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of the MNC Nation. And best of luck in the ratings and everything else. I have no doubt you're going to do fantastic here.
Thank you, brother. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of yours and the station. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much.